They called it a public health program, but it was one of the largest government-run sterilization campaigns in modern history, and almost nobody knows it happened. In the 1940s, the United States government looked at the island of Puerto Rico and decided there were too many people. Not too many problems, not too much poverty, too many people. And what they did next would permanently alter the bodies of over a third of Puerto Rican women, without full understanding, without real consent, and with the full backing of American federal policy. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is documented. This is in the records. And this is the story they never put in your history textbook. Puerto Rico in the 1940s was a living, breathing island. Families packed into coastal towns, children running barefoot through sugarcane dust, women balancing babies and work and faith all at once. It was poor, yes, but it was not broken. What broke it was a decision made thousands of miles away, in boardrooms, in university halls, in government offices where men with charts decided that the problem with Puerto Rico was the people who lived there. American economists, politicians, and eugenics-influenced researchers looked at Puerto Rico's birth rate and called it a crisis. They said overpopulation was keeping the island poor. They said the solution was fewer Puerto Ricans. And then they built the infrastructure to make that happen. Clinics went up across the island, in every town, every village, every neighborhood where working-class women lived. They were presented as modern health centers. Women were told the procedure was simple. They were told it was reversible. Some were told almost nothing at all. The operation was called La Operación. It was a tubal ligation, permanent sterilization, and it was performed on women as young as their early 20s. Factory managers handed out clinic appointment cards to female workers like they were handing out work schedules. Hospital staff recommended the procedure to women immediately after childbirth, when they were exhausted, still in recovery, in no position to think clearly or say no. Some women signed consent forms they could not fully read. Some signed forms they did not know were consent forms. And some were never given a form at all. By 1968, approximately 1/3 of Puerto Rican women of childbearing age had been sterilized. 1/3. That number did not happen by accident. It happened because the system was designed to produce exactly that number. Researchers at American universities published papers celebrating Puerto Rico's declining birth rate as a success story. They called it a model for other developing nations. They presented it at international conferences. They gave it awards. And the women who had been operated on quietly returned home to kitchens that felt different, to chairs around tables where they could not always explain why something inside them had changed permanently. Because they were told it was the responsible thing to do. Because they were told it was their choice. Because they were never told the full truth about what was being taken from them. There were women who found out years later, when they tried to have another child and could not understand why their body would not cooperate. There were women who grieved in silence for decades because they had no language for what had been done to them. There were women who sat across from their daughters and granddaughters and never said a single word, because the shame had been so carefully placed on them that they believed they had nothing worth telling. This is what a systematic program looks like from the inside. Not soldiers, not force, just clinics, pamphlets, appointment cards, and a population that trusted the institutions telling them this was for their own good. Now here is what makes this story even more disturbing. Puerto Rico was not the only place this happened. Not even close. This was not an isolated incident on a small island. This was a global pattern running simultaneously across multiple continents, and most of it has never appeared in a single mainstream documentary. In North Carolina, the United States ran a eugenics board from 1929 to 1974 that forcibly sterilized over 7,600 people, disproportionately black women, poor women, and women deemed unfit by state-appointed committees who had never met them. In California, state institutions sterilized over 20,000 people across the first half of the 20th century, more than any other U.S. state. And the program received enthusiastic support from some of the most respected names in American academia. In Canada, the province of Alberta sterilized roughly 2,800 people under its Sexual Sterilization Act, a law that was not repealed until 1972. Not 1942, 1972. In Sweden, a country the world has long associated with progressivism, equality, and human rights, the government sterilized an estimated 63,000 people between 1935 and 1976. Most of them women, most of them poor, most of them told it was simply what responsible citizens did. In India, government sterilization camps in the 1970s pushed quotas so aggressively that health workers were pressured to meet targets at any cost, and men and women were sterilized in conditions so unsafe that hundreds died on the operating table. In Peru, in the 1990s, not the 1940s, not the 1890s, the 1990s, a government program sterilized an estimated 300,000 indigenous women. Many were coerced with food. Many were told the procedure was a routine vaccine. Many were operated on without any consent at all. And the president who oversaw that program was not a foreign colonial power. He was their own elected leader. These programs happened on every continent. They were dressed differently in each country. Some called it public health. Some called it national development. Some called it family planning. But the logic underneath every single one was always the same. Certain people were having too many children, and those people were always poor. They were always the ones with the least education. They were always the ones with no political power to push back. They were always the ones who would believe the person in the white coat. Now here is what you have not heard yet. The stories we have covered so far are the ones researchers eventually surfaced through decades of documentation, lawsuits, investigative journalism, and survivor testimony that took lifetimes to collect. But there are entire chapters of this history that have never appeared in a Western documentary. There are sterilization programs from nations that historians in those countries are still trying to excavate from sealed government archives. There are communities where the survivors are elderly now, running out of time, and still waiting for an acknowledgement that has never come. There are programs where the architects were never prosecuted, where they retired with pensions and honors, where the institutions that funded them are still operating today under different names. We are going to cover every single one of them. In the coming weeks, we will be bringing you the stories that will genuinely change how you understand the 20th century. The ones that took place in countries you would never suspect. The ones where the scale makes Puerto Rico look like a pilot program. The ones where the paper trail leads directly to institutions that are still respected today. And we will cover them the same way we covered Puerto Rico. With the full story, with the actual numbers, with the names of the systems, not just the victims, but the institutions that designed them, funded them, and then quietly buried them. Because the most dangerous version of history is not the history that was violent. It is the history that was made invisible. Puerto Rico's women were made invisible for decades. And then researchers found them, and journalists found them, and now you have found them. So here's what I need from you right now. If this story changed something in how you see the world, share this video. Put it in front of someone who thinks they already know what happened in the 20th century. Because I promise you, they do not know this. Drop the word Operation in the comments right now if you watch this to the very end. Because the algorithm is designed to bury stories exactly like this one. Your comment is the only thing that keeps it alive. And if you want to be in the room when we uncover the ones that will make everything you just heard sound like a footnote, follow this page right now. The next story is already coming, and you are not ready for it.